How do artists use textile subject matter, materials, and their context to express their concerns? And in this session, we have invited two speakers to join us today, both of them artists with quite interdisciplinary practices ranging from performance to research to sculpture. We will have Kawita Vatanashana Yankar, from artist from Bangkok, as well as Kang Ya Chu, an artist from Taipei. Our first speaker, Kawita, as I said, is an artist from Bangkok, Thailand, and also internationally known now for her performance work, often using her own body and recreating through her gestures these moments of labor in textile production, rendering visceral notions such as labor, the female body, and particularly within the context of Thailand. Join me in welcoming Kawita. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Kawita Vatanashyankar and I am a video and performance artist and I'm from Bangkok, Thailand. So I'll give you a little bit of my introduction and also sort of a glimpse of what my work is like. So I grew up in a law family. Everybody in my family, except me, are all lawyers. So they're all either judges, attorneys, or lawyers. And so every dinner, all of our family gather together for like 20 or 30 of us, and they all talk about the law topics, about cases, and everybody, I'm the only one who doesn't do law since, I was never interested in it. And when everybody talked about it, ever since I was a little kid, I started to be into it. And also, because we are such a big family, we have 30 in our family, 30 people in our family members. So because they're all in law, in my family, I have the sculptures, statues of the scale of justice all around my house ever since I was a kid. And so I think at that time, I thought that because of all the conversations, all the cases that they were into, my grandma and my aunt, females who focus on, especially on feminism in Thailand, and also on labor exploitation and on human trafficking. And I am very close with my grandma and my aunt, and we talked so much, and that was when I was so into the issues, especially labor exploitation in Thailand and human trafficking, which is, in the either the sex industry or the fishing industry, in which Thailand is known as the most human trafficking issues out of all the world. And so because of that, I feel that I want to create an artwork which focuses on the issues of labor exploitation. And so I did a series, the whole series of the fishing industry and other industries. And when I talked to my aunt and my grandma, and of course in Thailand we have the issue because of the mass production, as well as we all know about the incident that happened in Bangladesh in the Rana Plaza factory, which collapsed in 2013 and killed 1,000 or more people and injured 2,000 or more garment workers who worked within the factory at that time. And it's sort of, it's like that incident sort of slapped us all in the face about the cost of fast fashion, the human cost of fast fashion, and how the laborers behind the scene, laborers behind this capitalism, behind the materialism, behind the consumerism in the current world is affecting the people who are often being ignored by us all. And of course, there's so many times that some of the laborers for example, in Cambodia, in Bangladesh, or in India, for example, in this year, in 2019, the laborers, the garment workers came up to protest against the exploitation and the harsh treatment that they're being treated in the factory. And of course, as you all know, for example, in the Cambodian textile workers' protest, that when they came out to protest, they were being pushed away, and one worker was killed by the police during that protest. So every time I feel that these laborers who are of course being ignored by the society because of their status, every time that they want to step out and to speak to the world and about their treatment, about their rights, they're often being pushed away, and I feel that their voice has no freedom in it. Their voice is never heard because it's never loud enough for everyone per their status. So I think as an artist, I want to do something about it. And of course, I am not in law, and my family believes that law can change the society and can shape everyone by their policies and laws. But I also think that, by being an artist, I can also do that if I am willing to. And so I started by researching. So I go around first in Thailand, in all the factories in Thailand, and I talked to the factory owner about this issue. I talked to the laborer about this issue, and I also went around, for example, in Cambodia and also in India to interview the laborers and how they feel, so I can sort of express their voice through my artwork. And everybody that I interview sort of say the same thing, that they feel that they are being treated like machines, like tools in the factory. They feel that sometimes they feel like they're being dehumanized because people don't see their existence, or they're often being ignored. And they also feel that they work repetitively like machines as well. So in either ways, for people viewing them and them viewing themselves. So I want to continue to express their voice and use this line of them feeling that they're working like machines to express that to the audience in my artwork. So, of course, in the first work that I did is the 2 channels video work, and this is the series called Performing Textiles, in which I act as the machine of the spinning wheel in the factory. And because this is a documentation of the live performance, what I do is that I created this machine where I had like this wheel at the back of the stage where there's a person sort of driving the wheel, and I am sort of spinning around like the spinning wheel. And there's the needle, because this large needle is the key of the spinning wheel. So I use this needle because, their life, there are a lot of insecurities, danger in everyday life that they have to meet in the factory. So of course I use that sort of as a symbolic underneath this spinning wheel, so that, every time that, so this one goes for around 5 minutes, and every time that I have to do it, I just feel like I can't fall, because every time that I fall, I would definitely get hurt. And I think same and similar to these laborers. And this work here is called Die, and it's around 10 minutes long, but I want that you watch the whole thing because it's very long. But this one here, I replaced my hair with the white yarns, and there's this invisible force by unknown hands sort of catch my legs and my whole body and push my face and my whole body into the dip of the red yarn, and then the white yarn is sort of being slowly dyed, and I was being pushed up and down, and as I drowned into the red dye for 8 minutes and up to 10 minutes, all of the yarns began to be red. And this work here is called Chateau, in which I act as the chateau in this human weaving loom, where I use myself to weave through the fabric and create this whole thick fabric I did this for cuts together is only around 4 to 5 minutes, but actually I did this for the whole day because it's so hard to climb up and down and do everything all over again. So from left to right, from right to left, I would have to sort of jump through and weave through the yarn. Yes, and slowly the fabric is going to be thicker and thicker each time that I sort of stitched or jumped through the weaving as the chateau. So it's sort of mimicking the idea of the whole weaving loom, but using the body as the machine. And I also did 2 more videos. One is the silk screen printing, which is about 5 or 6 minutes, in which I use myself as the squeegee and sort of squeeze myself quite violently throughout the silk screen print. And the other one is called untangled, which is like the carding process of the machine. And this one here is called carrier, in which I act as the laborers and also the machine of the carrier that carries all these piles of heavy yarn from left to right and from right to left again and again. And actually, this was originally a video work in which I never finished because of the heaviness of these piles of fabrics. There was this one time where because the idea was to carry all this yarn from right to left and then transfer all the fabrics to this side and then come back again to gain another fabrics. And what happened during that process was that the string on top broke as it went here. And well, of course, every time I have safety, but after this one, so I have safety from here to here, but this one came all the way to here. And I hit my head. I fell very, very hard, and I hit my head, and I went to the hospital for 2 weeks, and I've had vertigo. Like now, I still have vertigo. So this one became more of a photography work rather than a video work because I never finished this work. I would love to finish it though. So just going back again. So actually, I know that every time that I create an artwork, I know that there's a lot of risk in it. There's a lot of danger and, of course, insecurities when I perform the work. But I think I know now how important it is to use my body. Because if I was a video artist and use another person's body, I would never know what it feels like to be a machine, what it feels like to be treated like a tool or something that, you know, can be broken at any time or can, you know, fall down at any time. I think it's, in terms of the human cost in it, when you see the human as machines, it makes much more sense for me to use my body and to actually be injured and to know what it feels like. So in terms of shifting that studio practice into a museum or an exhibition space, I created, this is the show at the Dunedin Public Art Gallery, which is a museum in Dunedin, New Zealand. So I recreated this. I was lucky enough to have a large dark room in which I could create this whole dark room as like a factory, like a dark without windows. So because I feel like every time that I visit the factories, there are no windows. Everything is sort of being hidden inside, so you never know what's happening inside or how the lives are inside. And usually there's no air. It's very hard to breathe inside the factory. So I want to recreate that feeling. So in terms of coming into the show, you see this work here, and then you see the other machines sort of being displayed all around the factory. And I would want to make sure that it's sort of human scale, even larger than human scale for an impact of the audience. So the audience would feel more related to the work when it's like human is actually acting as machines in there. So that's the spinning wheel there. And then as you walk through the space, this is called untangled, or the cutting process. So this one here is actually started with all the yarn sort of being tangled. And then I would sort of use my body to figure out the ways to untangle the yarn, which everybody knows how difficult and how frustrating it is to untangle something. But I believe that, you know, there's always a way to untangle or to fix the situation. And then moving forward, you would see the work that you saw before with this shuttle. Which is again in a human scale, weaving through the fabric, creating the whole production of the fabric. And then this is sort of the whole view of what the exhibition looks like. Or my little factory, human factory looks like in the museum. Okay. So I was thinking that I know that this talk is about shifting from studio to museum and into the gallery space or an art space, but I also have an idea because I know that I was questioning if art can also be out of the museum if I want to talk about the social issues like, labor exploitation or human trafficking, or how do I make the consumers who go to shopping malls every day or who have a lot of desire to purchase materialistic items, how do I make them aware of this issue? And so I talked to a lot of billboards or shopping malls all around the world if I can sort of display my work in their billboards and on the shopping malls after their advertisements to sell something, so that the consumers who are not actually in the art world can sort of compare and sort of can be aware of the work. There's also my other works which talks about other issues, other labor exploitation in Thailand as well. So, for example, this one here is the ice factory, and it's called the Ice Shaver, in which I use my face to shave the ice. This one is the shuttle, and it's in a shopping mall called Maya in Niman, Chiang Mai. So this one was right after H&M advertisement. And this one is, I was talking about the laborers behind the agriculture in Thailand, and this is rice. So this is the Adelaide Festival Centre in Adelaide, Australia. And it's right on the streets where people are walking around and also the car are passing by as well. So I think that the idea of showing where, during the traffic day, when people see some advertisement and then see my work and sort of why is this different from the other advertisement? And this is Central World, which is a very famous shopping mall in Thailand. This is Melbourne Central Shopping Mall in Melbourne, Australia. And also this one is Federation Square in Melbourne, Australia as well. Okay, so after the exhibitions and also the off-site exhibition at the public space, like the shopping malls, I began to think, how can I raise more awareness to the public audience? I know that, the museum is very strong, the museum context is very strong, but how to raise more context to the social, to the society more. During my visit in the factory, I came across this knitting machine where there's a needle that goes around the machine and create this tube of machine very, very fast. And it's just fascinating, and I realized how to recreate that one in a human scale. So I act as that needle and sort of use my hands, my legs and my mouth and my whole body like that needle to recreate that tube of fabric. And this one here is called Knit, and it's the live performance. And I thought where else I could do that live performance. And so during the Bangkok Art Biennale, the curator told me that, discuss with me, do you want to do in a more public art space? And I thought, I want to do it in a 5-star hotel where everybody is glamorously having their afternoon tea. And everyone was invited to wear red, which is the same fabric as what I am knitting at the moment. And it sort of created the audience or the consumer and producer sort of relationship. So at the Bangkok Art Biennale, I had to perform it for 2 months, every Saturday and Sunday, every 2 weeks, for 1 hour. Very tiring. So after after that show, I'm just showing the whole, not the whole video, but a glimpse of the video of what it's like. So after that show, I was very, very lucky to be invited by the Culture Summit in Abu Dhabi. And the Culture Summit is organized by also the art industry, like the Royal Academy of Arts, the Guggenheim, but also the economists and many, many politicians and lawyers and economists went there to that seminar, to that summit, and discussed about what can be changed in the current policies. And I was very, very lucky enough to perform this work in front of the people who have the power in their hands to change the law or the policies. But the thing is, during this performance, I could only perform for 20 minutes. So usually it's 1 hour long to finish the whole fabric. But because Culture Summit, of course, is a very important event, but I only had 20 minutes. Actually, I had 15 minutes, but I asked for a little bit more. But 20 minutes was very, very short, and they put this large timer beside the knitting machine that I was knitting. So beside me, this timer. So I had, and they said, you have to finish the whole fabric in 20 minutes, and you also have to, be on time. And I was like, every time that I produce this fabric, I have to wash out the time. Oh, what time is it? What time is it? So it was very, very frustrating, very, very, very hard, very difficult. But I was doing my work as the knitting machine, and without realizing, I was tangled everywhere in my, the yarns came across my neck, and because I had to bite the yarn as I knit. So after I finished and I had to do the interview, of 2 sides of my mouth were bleeding because of that. But I think that I'll show you what it's like. So everything sort of became very tangled, very, very violent, because I had to rush everything. Very fast fashion, I know now what fast fashion has a very, very big effect on the laborers. But as I finished and I didn't realize, I thought that it was hurt, but I didn't realize how that I was seriously injured. And I did an interview about the labor exploitation behind this industry. And after I came back into the dressing room, I got a lot of messages saying you're actually bleeding, your mouth is bleeding. But I am very, very into your work and the performance because of how fast I had to be, because of this timer that I had to be on time. So I think it gives this even more powerful layer into the work without I realized it. So after that, I sort of been touring this performance all around the world. So in Thailand, in Chiang Mai, in Bangkok, Chiang Mai, in Abu Dhabi, in Taipei, and everywhere else. So I'm going to talk about my current interest now, in which I just came. Before coming to Hong Kong, I went to stay in India for 1 month, and I stayed with the cotton farmers for 1 month. I know that there are a lot of exploitation, of course, in the factories, the garment workers who worked in the factory, but for mass production, it affects everyone, especially the farmers or the cotton farmers, especially in India. And so I went to India because I wanted to know. I know that every year around 7,000 farmers or more are committing suicide by drinking the chemical pesticides because of the pressure or the depths by using the chemical or by using the GMO seeds, because there are a lot of investment inside it. So I want to experience what it's like. I want to know and interview them and research about it so I can create the work that can also be their voice. So I went to India. I went first to Rajasthan in India, and I noticed that every workers in the cotton farm are women. So everyone are women, and I asked why everyone are female. Even in the factories, about 85% of garment workers are women, and again in the cotton farms, every workers are women, and they told me that because the women wages are half of the price as lower than men. It's only about 200 rupees per day when men have 400 rupees. So it's much cheaper to hire women to do the labor in the cotton farming. So this is sort of my interview with the cotton farmers about the effect with chemical pesticides, with fertilizers, and how to fix the problem. So these are the chemical farmers that I interviewed who are planning to turn into organic farming. And this is the organic farming organization and organic cotton farming village in HD Kote in India, where I stayed with. And this is the village and the family that I stayed with during my 1 month period of homestay in India. And yes, so hopefully this is the school for young organic farmers for the young generations who want to do organic farming, because it's, of course, no investment, lower investment than the chemicals. So I hope that I can also be a voice in my next series for these farmers or these laborers or these workers in India. Thank you so very, very much. Sorry for such a long talk. Thank you.
Thanks, Kawita. Thank you very much for a great presentation on connections between textiles and current issues, but maybe even more broadly on questions of what it means to visualize something and what bodies are visible, and in addition to that, sort of what it takes for people to sympathize and empathize with pain and labor. So thank you for that, Kawita. Next, we have Kang Ya-chu, who is an artist from Taipei. In addition to that, Kang Ya-chu is also our current artist in residence at CHAT. Every year at CHAT, we host an artist in residence to interact with Hong Kong's textile history and have access to our collections and our team's input to collaboratively pull together workshops, performances, and artworks together. This year we have Kang Ya-chu, and her work currently is being exhibited and shown in our CHAT lab, which is within our gallery space across on the second floor of the other building. So please, when you have time during breaks, have a look. And with that, I'd like to welcome Ya-chu.
Hi, everyone. I'm so grateful to be here to work with the whole CHAT team. So I'm going to give everyone a short introduction of my background. So I studied sculpture before, and so I work with the many different materials, and then I move into textile. So after learning so many skills of weaving and all the process of textile, dyeing, and printing, I was kind of frustrating because to move on my idea from 3-dimensional space into 2-dimensional, I was like struggling how can I present my idea, because my idea is always like all over the place, went crazy. So being a Taiwanese also, I feel quite isolated because also the Taiwan situation in the world. So I think in some way that I always trying to put myself in like outside of space, being an outsider. So I travel around and trying to be in other place because somehow I feel like one day I'll become homeless in the world. So in my earlier work, I did a lot of like sculpture, and they are look like a absent figure. So for example, this is the one in Green Island in Taiwan. So it's a prison in the past, have a lot of political people. So I use a lot of like paper, different kind of material, and for this one it's tracing paper, and I also collect the recycle prisoners' uniform, and I turned it into a uniform like party dress and did a performance. So my material was always have many different background because I always looking for the meaning. What's the meaning? Why I choose this material? Why I use this technique to make my work? And until one time I collaborated with this performance group, and they asked me that if they can use my sculpture to do a performance. And then suddenly I feel like quite touching because I feel like my sculpture is finally alive. So after this, I don't really like to make any absent figure anymore because I feel they are kind of useless in some point. So at the same time, I also work with a lot of community projects. So for example, this is a wetland project in Taiwan. So I was like working with elementary kids. So we were using like cyanide process to create a shadow on the fabric. And this is another project I did in Bangladesh, and which is I collaborate with a weaver from the village, and then I asked them to weave this textile. And so it's become part of my work. And this is another project I did in India, and because the area doesn't really have a lot of water, and so I come out with this idea, making this water top sculpture, but also it's because the village, I see women were like slice the bamboo, and it's just like bamboo was so strong in the beginning, but then after their hand, it becomes so soft and even like a very fine yarn laying on the floor. So I collaborate with this craftsman that he always weaving this bamboo basket weaving every day. So I turn his weaving into a sculpture. So it's also kind of like bring them another view of seeing what kind of thing that they can create. And this is another project that I did in Portugal last year. So it's part of the Textile. So I was collaborating with a local jacquard weaving company that produce this textile. So I think textile for me in my art is kind of like I'm trying to create the link. Like a textile yarn in origin is visual, but I'm trying to use it as a metaphor to talk about the link between people and the society and environment. So I'm trying to find the different connection to bring out the question. It's not just for myself, also for the audience. And I'm also taking the opportunity, like every project for me is a new way of learning the thing, new ways of seeing the thing, and new technique. So this is a project that I was there for more than 1 month, and every day I was going around the town and trying to find the leftover soap. So it's also kind of the small hint that it's hidden in our society, but it's actually connect people and the space. So you can see a lot of my work, they are kind of like site-specific installation. And during my whole practice, I also did a lot of cultural research. So I'm trying to also find myself, what's my point to be here? Like, how can I link the history and the past to the contemporary life right now? So, for example, this silk research project is related to migration, related to labor, and related to different issues. So, I'm not just interested about material itself. It's more about what's the story behind. And after so many research, I find out that the most important thing behind everything is the human being. Like, who is the people behind this? So if you have yarn, but you don't have human being, who is weaving this textile? And what kind of story is actually hidden that we don't really see? So for my residency project here, it's called Cotton Dream, but it's part of my cotton research project. So it's like a cotton, we look at this word cotton, but it's actually linked to many things. It's like you open the dictionary and there's many different descriptions. So for example, like we look at the cotton ball, but who is the person picking up from the farm, and where is the farm? Which country is it? If you order the cotton, where it's come from? Or like the cotton gin, so they have to send all their cotton to the factory, and the factory will take out the seed, but does the seed can grow? So this is causing a lot of different situations. And for example, this one is from the cotton mill that the woman gave me from the jacquard weaving machine in India. So when I was there, this machine is full of spider net because they were saying that the last man who know how to weave, use this jacquard weaving loom, he died 2 years before when I visit. So no one know how to operate the machine anymore. So they give me the card as a gift because they don't need it. So I was really touched by all this kind of story, like during my trip, who are these people I met? And they actually gave me a lot of feedback. For example, this is the sculpture I made. It's made from the 500 ruby, the banknote. So it's also related to the economic issue there. And this is the blanket factory in Taiwan. So in Taiwan, we also have very rich textile industry history in the past. And we grow cotton before, but because the government situation, they actually more promoting producing synthetic fabric. So most of the textile company in Taiwan, they are weaving a synthetic fabric now, also the high-tech textile. So then I create this small sculpture. It's called mianbei. So mianbei is Chinese for the blankets. So I think for cotton, not just material, but also for art is for using our imagination. Like I really like this word when people don't know what is cotton, and they were imagining that, they heard that, oh, cotton is growing from a plant, from the tree, so they called it tree wool. So I like the idea that when you don't know something unknown, and then you are using your imagination to create something new, or you can push your boundary to go to another direction. So it's like I think art is the way to not just throw out the question, not just telling the meaning or the thing you want to tell, but also giving people the hint to think about something that we'll never think about, like the imagination. So I was using this chakra spinning wheel. It's from India. So India tree was kind of like the beginning of my cotton research project. So I make this work as everything about cotton is about cotton. So let's move into my residency project here. So I have this project called Cotton Dream. So you can see I'm sleeping there. So I'm very fascinated with the dream. I remember that since I got here, I have many nights that I woke up in the midnight and had the dream that I was trying to figure out how to weave people's dream. So dream always affect me. I think maybe some people, you don't really remember what's your dream at night, but it's actually relate to your daily life. It's relate to your thoughts. It's subconscious, you probably don't know that. And I think it's also relate to the past, the history. So this is my third time visit Hong Kong. So the first image you see here is actually the photo I took in Chen 1. So it's also related to textile. And this is a photo I took in Shenshui here. So I think, look at the Hong Kong city skyline. I think our life is just like this upside down, like up and down, like a real but also refraction. It's kind of like a life cycle. So I'm also very interested in this kind of like what's the line linked to each other, but what's the line create the border between everyone? Is it separating us? Yeah, this issue, like a boundary, is very interesting for me. So for this part, I interview 3 people. So this is Yi Jie and Zhang Dage and their daughter, their family. So 3 of them, they both work in the textile industry before. So I interview them and listen to their story, and then they tell me about their feeling and their life, and then I let them wear the watch to record their sleeping pattern for a week. And then I turn their sleeping pattern into textile. So I think this up and down sleeping pattern is also it's kind of like a textile industry, the whole cycle, and it's also related to economic and also our life pattern as well. So you can see it. So this is still working in progress. So if you're interested, you can come to my studio and see the real work. What time is it? And on the other side, I also did a serious drawing. So a lot of my work are from my daily life research here. So sometimes I walk around the city and I took photographs and I did something with them. So for this serious work that I was willing to work with a local company. So CHAT, they find this local company, Long River Computer Label Development Company in Hong Kong. So I was really impressed that there's still textile industry, textile factory working in Hong Kong. And they are originally weaving the label, the label for the clothes. So it's using the jacquard textile machine. So I was working with them, the design team. So I produced this series work. So it's kind of like, because jacquard weaving textile, that you can weave very realistic image. So I'm trying to bring a hand drawing and the photography together, but it's using the computer system to create. So this is the back side of the textile. I find it's very beautiful. And on the same line of a cotton research project, I also did the research in Manchester last year. So doing my research, I'm not like just using the history, the documentary. I'm actually trying to find the interesting to representing this idea. Like for example, when I was in Manchester and I visit many factory, and this is the large size of a spinning machine, and you can see in the photo there's a woman here. She's under all this yarn. And so she was showing that in the past, they actually have a lot of kids working in the mill because they have to have someone always picking up the cotton from the floor. Otherwise, it will like cause a fire or create some damage in the mill. But for the kids who work in this kind of environment, actually it's better for the age, it's under 8 years old. So it's actually really like a not environmental friendly situation. And also like hearing a lot of story, like they were talking about during the weaving process, the kissing shuttle. It's for me, it sounds very romantic because you're like kissing shuttle, but it's actually for these words because the weaver, they have to like use their lips to touch the shuttle to suck the yarn through the hole so they can weave. So I'm very interesting, like I say, the line between each other, the border, but it's also like yin and yang, dark and bright, which side. So I'm playing with this kind of idea, like kissing shadow is romantic, but it's on the other side, it's very dark. It's create a lot of disease. Yeah, so this is a different place I visit and the research. So for example, also the bobbin mill, like look at the cotton mill, cotton history. It's not just about this fiber material. It's also related to everything. Like they have to create a lot of bobbin to wind the yarn on it. But because after Industrial Revolution, and then after the whole mill like shutting down, they have so much bobbin left. So they also use this word like if they say bobbin, it's actually also mean kind of garbage because it's too much. No one wants it. But it can relate to the cotton as well. So this is the work that I did after the research. So it's also related to environment. And as you know, like UK now, they are also facing this environment crisis. They are, like have the issue about oil. So I was like doing this. This is charcoal, but it's also related to the oil environment. So from the previous research about cotton, now I'm in Hong Kong. So I'm trying to link all my research from the past together. And so you can see this is the cherry machine. So it's also, it's all related to spinning. So I'm also taking the spin, this word spinning, it's not just an action. It's like you spin, you combine all the fiber together, but what's the tension? If it's too tight, it will break, but if it's too loose, then the fiber cannot bind together. So I'm using like a cotton spin, like all this thing relate to textile to hint the thing that I want to talk about. So the very interesting time being here is because I'm staying in Hong Kong. I'm living just opposite side of TST police station. So of course, I got the experience of tear gas and all the police on the street. So I think for Taiwan, we are very concerned about the situation here. So of course, it's also related to my experience and my work here this time. So I created this sculpture, it's called Let's Spin. So you can see this sculpture, the foam is actually from the traditional spinning wheel machine, but I kind of create a different pattern. And this work that I actually collaborate with the Fabrica Lab, which is just there in that room. So I was using the laser cut machine to create this work. And for this work, because as I was mentioned about spin, I create this workshop. It's like a social collaboration. Within that, I invite people to come together and weave, and then I create this loom. It looks like a snow globe, because snow globe for me is like it represents the idea of fantasy, memory. So they can think of the dream, and then they weave this circle textile, and then I invite them to put it on this chakar. Spinning, so they can actually turn the spinning around, and then the textile will move. So it's create another pattern. So after this workshop, that I will make a video work. It's from everyone's textile. So you can see everyone, they're actually very creative. So talking about laser cut machine, that the first thing I did here during my residency is I created a work. It's called dirt carpet. So dirt carpet is the idea that I use the material is like a powder to create a pattern on the floor, and it's carpet. So then I invite people to walk on the carpet. So it's about life cycle, and this is this one is number 8. So for this dirt carpet series, it's depend on the location, depend on different culture, different background, and then I will create the pattern for that place and choose a particular different material for the carpet. So now I'm going to show you a little bit of my dirt carpet series. So it's actually start from Thailand. And so I was researching the textile in Thailand, and this is the pattern from the Thai passing, the skirt that women wear. And all these patterns, they all relate to nature. So I choose this pattern, and then I create this. But at that time, I have a sculpture in the center of my dirt carpet. So during the opening, I let people walk around and then destroy the pattern on the floor. So for me, it's not really destroyed. The pattern just gone, but the dirt is just back to the original look. And then after that, I think I don't really need sculpture in the center. Yeah, so this is the one I did in Istanbul. So I was using this material is for constructing the building. So you can see this is the opposite side of the space that people were washing the clean carpet and hang it on their balcony. So the pattern I choose were all the pattern relate to protection, and also I create some new pattern from the architecture. And of course, I let people walk around again. But it's very difficult to clean this floor. And then I did another one in Bangladesh. So it's also related to the issue that you see earlier, the building club. But it was my second time being there. So when I saw that news, it was really touching for me, because I know people from Bangladesh, it's not just a news for me. So at that time, I created this pattern as a girl using the sewing machine to produce a garment. And this guy, he's just an old man selling tea for artists every day. And then after, he never walked into the gallery, and then he probably see me moving these bricks back and forth all the time. And then he asked me, do you want tea? So finally, he walked into the gallery, and then he looked at my work and look at this. And I can feel like he really got the point that what I want to say, because people, they say, even for themselves, they know the problem, but they don't talk about it. Yeah, so then after that, I let people walk around again. And then this is the other one that I did in Portugal. So it's the same relate to the earlier picture I showed you, that I collect the leftover soap. So I was using the leather powder, because in the past, that area was producing, they have a lot of leather industry. So powder are actually the final step of producing the leather, and they are the waste. So I use the leather to create this pattern. It's related to the tile. And this is another one I did in Manchester. So like this time, the material I choose is charcoal powder. So this is because I heard the story, like when I was researching, they were saying that people in the past, during the Industry Revolution, the city was always dark and smoky air. And so I was using this material trying to create the different atmosphere. So you can see the pattern. They actually found the loom, the jacquard weaving loom that you see the yarn, and the punching card, different element. And then during the time that when people walk around, the charcoal actually kind of floating in the air, and the museum, they were like so worried about that the fire alarm will make noise. But I think for the third carpet series, I was trying to create the experience for the audience. So for this time, this is my inspiration of the carpet in Hong Kong. So it's related to the recrimination, the land and the nature, and also the transportation. So you can see all these different elements that I choose. So for example, this is from the mill, from the city view. And I'm also playing with the idea that the element, the image, the pattern you see, it's not exactly that, okay, it's mean this. So people can actually use your imagination to think about what's that? Yeah, so it's no fun to tell you all the elements. So you can use your imagination. So I spent like 3 hours to create this, and then people walk around, because I think I'm just creating the pattern, and people, audience are actually the performers, so to complete this work. And then I make a graffiti.
它不是原本的状态，它就是破坏吗？它或许创造了另外一种美感。重点在于他们行走破坏完之后，他们回馈到自己生命经验的一个感受，那这样这个作品才算是完成。这样的概念其实是跟生命循环有关，所以它其实是回到媒材原始的一个状态。我是康雅竹，来自台湾的艺术家，这次来到 CHAT 6厂做驻场艺术家。 这次在香港的计划，其实我定了一个主题，叫做棉花梦。那其实主要是源自于六厂早期是作为香港的一个棉纺织厂的这段的历史，所以把棉花设定为介于人跟人，然后现在跟过去、当下跟历史的一个连接线。那梦其实它牵涉到的可以是潜意识，那也可以是人们直接有意识到他对未来的一个想象。所以我其实是把现实跟想象做一个连接，然后把过去跟未来也做一个连接。旋转吧作品，它就是也是一个跟群众有互动的部分，有点算是 social weaving 的一个 project。这支片就会透过旋转去产生不同的画面，那它又很像我们小时候会看那个万花筒，那你旋转那个万花筒里面的色彩会变化，然后让你有不同的想象空间。其实就是要邀请大家去想象你的梦跟棉花、跟织品、跟生活的之间的关联。那我觉得艺术家有一个很重要的部分是，让人有想象力，它可以引发人不同的思考方式。就是因为很多时候它就不是那么的现实面的考量，不同的感受就是可以让你有不同的经验，然后连接到你的灵魂。不管说是视觉上美感经验的呈现，它让你感受到漂亮，它就是让你有舒服啊或者美好的感受。
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Yachu. I think for anyone who has studied textiles to any capacity will know that textiles, especially today, will become, you might study it in one place, but tracing its histories and its materials is inevitably global. So we're very lucky to have Yachu be here and tell us her stories about global textile connections. It's also interesting to place your work in connection to Kawita's before, this issue of embodiment, what it means to embody something. I think Yachu, with your extensive artist in residence programs around the world, really in some ways embodies textiles labor and textiles networks already.